Get your glasses out, because today's program is going to be as clear as night and day and as black and white. Are y'all confused because in North Georgia we've got northern lights now? I don't get it. I just don't get it. I guess old ladies aren't meant to figure out everything, but you know, I flew to Alaska to see the northern lights. Now we've got folks around here last night again posting them pictures. They said, I can see it from over here, I can see it from over here. Well, I couldn't see it from ball ground, so I don't know where y'all are seeing it from, but it appears to be as clear as black and white. So today's program is about black and white. Everything is just as clear as can be. Granny used to say, well, it's just as clear as black and white. And I said, what does that mean? Well, it means that if you really open your eyes and you use your common sense, then it will all appear right to you and you'll figure it out. So last night about 10 p.m., the Trumpster put his name on a piece of paper and it opened the government back up. It is clear to me that nothing was accomplished except some people got about a 42-day vacation that they will now get paid for. It was non-paid because they weren't getting checks while they were off, except for the Congress and the Senate. So today, it's clear as black and white to me. I want y'all to get you a piece of paper like this, and I want you to write a letter. You can do it on email. You can write it on paper. I like handwriting because that really gets the point across to them. You can tell if you're mad when you're writing. Write a letter to your congressman, to your senators, and say, shame, shame, shame. Granny would say, shame on you, and go get me a hickory. I'm going to spank you. Well, the government probably needs a spanking because it was senseless to shut it down. And we're not going to lay the blame on who gets the blame, because then I'd get all this other can of worms opened up. I'm not in the mood for that today. Y'all will see real quickly, I'm having a hard time breathing. I'm sneezing like crazy, and my nose is running. So I got me some tissue here, and we're going to do the best we can today. It will be a little wild. If it gets totally crazy, then you will see Trace and the guys just sitting out here talking to y'all. So no, hopefully we'll be okay. But I've been sneezing and hacking all night long, and yeah, I tried to keep my distance from them. I don't know if I'm contagious. I don't think I am. I think it's from my allergies are finally breaking loose. And when it breaks loose, then it causes all kinds of havoc and craziness. But did anybody make a comment today? She looks like Mr. T today. Well, she looks like Mr. T because yesterday I realized in the program that we were airing with Papa Jack, I had on my necklace like this, and I said, oh, I'd forgotten. I used to wear it all the time. So I went to the jewelry box and I got out the Mr. T stuff. So it's amazing to me. Keys Jewelry made this. They'd been in business over 60 years and they closed. Today you're going to get to meet somebody. We're going to do just about 6 minutes of her interview, and then it will be a full interview, almost 30 minutes, that will be on YouTube. We'll do it next week, its entirety on the program. I've been talking about black and white, getting to know people. Really get to know them before you judge them and before you make an opinion of them. So I can't describe to people what the speed burgers mean to our life. But all our life, for 61 years, we've run down there and got a bag of speed burgers with slaw on them, got a bag with a steak sandwich, a big cheeseburger, a shrimp plate. We've done this and we've assumed that they will always be there. They've been there for 61 years. Well, there'll be a day that who's going to take over the reins, because surely they'll retire someday, and you'll get to hear all about that. They're not getting ready to retire anytime soon, but one day into the future, that's what happens with family businesses. You work until you're just wore slap out, and then you hope your kids will take it over. Well, if your kids don't take it over, then somebody else gets the opportunity to do it. We saw this happen at R&M Hoagie Shop down in Canton. Weren't any kids left to take over. None of the family wanted to stay. They were wore slap out, but for over 50 years, over 60 years, they fed us the most amazing sandwiches for day after day after day. A new owner bought it, and it didn't make it. It didn't last. It changed. It wasn't the same. So we're just praying that the Heath family will stay healthy, 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 and they will be there through my lifetime. And maybe we'll have a Speed Burger birthday party for me. I don't know, but they've been in my life about as long as anything has. So you're going to get to know a little bit about them today. We're going to do a little interview with Cindy. And then I'm going my next black and white interview, and it's called Getting to Know. So you're getting to know, you got to know Dennis Nelson, who actually won. He's mayor of Ball Ground now. He'll take over the reins in January, so we're excited about that. And Christine Rogers also won again. She had been on the council before. She's doing a great job. She won again. But you have to put the 2 and 2 together. Black and white, 2 and 2. It all comes out the same. You have to look at how few people voted in elections. We actually lost an election that was on the Cherokee-Fulton County border where there were several Republicans running, and our candidate lost by 60 votes. That was scary to me because only 60 people made a difference in who won and who lost. So it is your privilege, it is your right in America, and we talked about that a little bit yesterday. There are many, many servicemen who died protecting our rights, and one of our rights is the right to vote. So if you're not involved, get involved. And if you were registered to vote and you didn't vote, well, then you can't gripe. And I would always say, if you don't vote, you can't gripe. So get out there and get to know the candidates. And that's one of the things when I started doing this get to know stuff, I just wanted people to know this is this guy, because quite often on Facebook, you don't really know the people you're talking to. And when you look, I'm going to say something. I better not say something mean today. I'm not in the mood to fight anybody today. I don't feel good. But I will just say, I usually look at the character who's disclaiming or calling you a liar or being mean to you, and you just kind of take it with a grain of salt. And that's what Granny would say. She'd say, well, they just ain't right. They just ain't right. Granny said that all the time. But get to know the candidates. And so I started doing it when I realized that people like Papa Jack are gone from today. And then when I watched the interview with him yesterday, I realized how much he meant to the community, how much he meant to everybody. So we're going to finish that interview today. We're also going to show a little bit of Cindy's interview, and then my next interview will be, if you're looking to buy a house, one of the first phone calls you make is to a mortgage lender. Now, how do you know who to call? How do you know where to get information? How do you know the ins and outs of doing a mortgage? If you've never bought a house before, it's very complicated because they say, well, you can get points, you can give this, you can do this. How do you explain that? So I have someone who's going to sit down with me for about 30 minutes, and he has a mortgage company that knows the ins and outs. He knows the ins and outs, and because they own the mortgage company, they offer some really, really good deals. Now, there are 2 other lenders that I love and I trust, and I use them all the time. And I call them and I say, hey, explain this to me. Help this first-time buyer get through this process. It's a process. When you're buying a house and you know, okay, I can afford X amount of dollars per month, and you get pre-qualified, and then you look and you go, oh my gosh, there's no way. We'll never get to eat out again. We'll never get to get our nails done again. We'll never get to buy another new car, because that house payment, the taxes, the insurance, and the house payment will change the way you budget your money. And so I want David to explain that to y'all. So that's going to be our next interview. We need to get to know what revolves in our life. And one of the things that revolves in your life is if you want to be a homeowner, you need to know about your mortgage and your lending. You need to know about the values of property. You need to know what is going on in today's market, because we hope that next spring the interest rates go down. We're not sure they will, but we know that somebody is going to be retiring, and that somebody is not a big fan of our president, and so he's kind of held the ropes and chains and tied things down and made it a little bit hard. So we think next spring things will get better. Do you wait to buy a house till next spring, or do you buy it now and then you have to redo a loan, including the cost of doing a loan, which is closing cost? So what do you do? So I hope David can answer all those questions for us, and that'll be in the next few days, and we will get it out there, and y'all can kind of sit and watch and refer to it. And, you know, it's a great way to get advice. It's a great way to make a decision. Do you want to pay rent the rest of your life, or do you want to be a homeowner? Well, I bit the bullet to be a homeowner and did it many, many times. And most of the time, everything worked out great. But the houses were a little bit cheaper then than they are today. So there's a lot to think about. And I hope David can answer the questions. So we're going to do that. But today, we want to share a little bit of the Veterans Day Parade. You're going to get to see some of the Gilmer County Parade. You're going to also get to see part of Cindy's interview, and we're going to finalize Papa Jack's interview, because as I sat and watched it, I just thought, what an amazing, amazing man. What a difference he made in the community where we live. And you see my black and white in front of you today? I got me a new Charlie Kirk shirt last night, and I was going to wear it today, but I thought, I don't know, I think I'll just use it on the set right now. But there's something about the world as we knew it. There's something about the World War II veterans are almost all gone. The Korean veterans will be the next to all be gone. And I thought about Papa Jack and what he was around so many kids working in the school system. His son, David, was around so many kids working in the school system. They made a difference in the life of kids. They made it better. If you're an educator today, I hope that you will follow in the steps of Papa Jack. I hope you will follow in the steps of his son, David. I hope that you will make a difference in a child's life in a good way, not in a negative way. Today, at Turning Point USA, they have over 100,000 applications to have more events and to have more of their projects going on in colleges everywhere. But then 2 nights ago, they show up in California, and there's rioting, and there are fire bombs, and there was danger going on outside the event. The event was packed to maximum capacity in California. Now, California is about as liberal and crazy as you can get, and that's the truth. And Granny says the truth will stand. It is liberal and it is crazy. But even at Berkeley, the kids wanted to know. The kids want to turn to the Lord. The kids want to change the world, even at Berkeley. But they didn't feel safe taking them in from the entry they would normally have used, because there were riots going on outside. There were fire bombs going on outside. And they're doing the homework and they're following the trail. And it's not a happy trail to follow, because it's a lot of things to do with negativity and violence and anger funded by a certain person. So we need to watch. It's as clear as black and white. It's as clear as the government opening back up. You know, actually 2 systems in the government did not miss a paycheck: Congress and the Senate. Write your congressman, write your senators. Say, shame, shame on you. You should donate the money that you got paid while you were doing nothing, and donate it to the charity of your choice. So get your pen, get your paper out. You can Google it. You can find your local congressman's phone number, and you can write him a letter. And I can guarantee you they will not donate their money. They will not do the right thing, which makes me kind of sad. So to me, it's as clear as black and white. They're really not working for us. They're working for their paycheck. So it's time that we get a Congress that works for us. And now we're celebrating in Ball Ground. We are going to be following forward with the new year. We're going to be following forward and working for the city of Ball Ground. Everybody's going to get together. Everybody's going to work together, and you make it good. You make it good for everybody. That's what you do. We didn't see that this time with our Congress and our Senate, because everybody's bickering and fighting and arguing. And if you know anything about what they were fighting about, you will understand why the Republicans held their ground and the Democrats had to cave, because they were fighting for something that is unrealistic. It was a waste of money. It didn't work, and hopefully we'll get some changes to that. So it's as clear as black and white if you do your homework. Do your homework. Now, I want to introduce you to somebody who has probably fed your family. If you've ever gone through the drive-thru at the Speed Burger, if you've ever whipped in there and taken your kids in and had supper, It's always the same. It's always good. The place is always clean. The staff is always amazing, and many of the people have worked there for years and years and years. But one day, we will lose the Speed Burger as we know it, because one day this family is going to retire. I hope it's many, many years down the road, many years down the road. And actually, when I go meet Jesus, I'll probably order a bag of a bag of Speed Burgers with slaw to go, because they're just awful good. So I'm going to introduce you now to Cindy Heath, and we're going to talk to her just for a few minutes, and then we're going to come back and we're going to do some other things about the Veterans Parade. I want you to see everybody brave the cold here in Gilmer County, and it was a beautiful sight. I'll be right back. Hey, good day, everybody. What a beautiful day in North Georgia. I have a very special guest, and I'd like to introduce her, but I'd really like to introduce what she's cooking tomorrow. So let's talk food, Miss Cindy. Tell folks your name and where you work.
My name is Cindy Heath, and I work at the Speed Burger in Jasper.
On the Speed Burger in Jasper, in business for
61 years.
61 years of feeding the folks.
Yep.
Many, many, many folks. And you know, when I think about the Speed Burger and how many folks you fed, remember the tornado that came through on Palm Sunday?
Mm-hmm.
It hit our building, and the building was destroyed. And I kind of stayed tough and strong. And after all of that, in the aftermath of the cleanup, JS said, run to the Speed Burger and get all the volunteers food. And that's a memory I'll never forget, because as I approached the Speed Burger, I looked at Kiker Funeral Home, and there were 6 names of one family.
Oh.
Do you remember that time in Jasper?
Mm-hmm, I do.
It was a time that neighbors came together and people joined in. And I think that's been a big part of what the Speed Burger is famous for. Mm-hmm. You come together for the community. Y'all have always sponsored everything. And I know the guys who work for you today still make money to do things to help other people.
Yeah.
That's what your company is about. That's what your family's about.
Right.
And that's important.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah.
And it's so weird, because the other day I was coming home from Jasper, and I had a bag of Speed Burgers sitting beside me with slaw on them, so the best. And somebody called me and they said, what are you doing? I said, I'm coming home from the Speed Burger. She said, what's the Speed Burger? I said, oh my gosh, I sold you a house and I didn't tell you about the Speed Burger? Are you kidding me? So tell folks a little bit about the Speed Burger and how it started.
My parents opened it in 1964. I'm not sure what month. Mama can't remember. She just remembers that Debbie and Charles, my older brother and sister, were in school. So it had to be sometime in August. We're not sure when. Because back then you went to school, you know. Well, they wasn't in school because it was sometime in August. They opened in a trailer. My dad had worked for somebody in Dalton, Jack Pogue, who had a string of trailers back then, you know. So they had opened one in Gainesville for him, and they went through Jasper from Dalton to get to Gainesville. So then Daddy wanted to open his own in Jasper. So they opened it.
It obviously worked.
It did.
It worked. 61 years ago. Okay, the first menu was probably pretty simple.
Basically what we have now.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It wasn't broke, so you didn't have to fix it.
The only thing we've ever really taken off, back in the day, they sold a fried oyster plate.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't go over too well, and then you got where you couldn't get them. We sold fried chicken, bone-in chicken, for years and years, but during COVID, it got so expensive and the cuts got so irregular, we couldn't serve it. I mean, the price point was too high. So we quit serving that and hadn't put it back on the menu.
You know what's so cool? We're talking 61 years. We have gone through horrible times in the economy. We have gone through craziness with you couldn't get this, you couldn't get that, but y'all survived.
We did, and we survived because, I mean, they were what hurt us the most more than any other chain coming in or the changes in Pickens County. I mean, during the recession, you know, we had a really hard time. That's how we added the Philly cheesesteak and the vegetables to the menu, because we even needed more variety of what we had. So we've always just made it do.
Okay, the history of the Speed Burger is long and large, but the coolest thing about it is there are no changes. You know, it's still good food, good service, great prices. The hours changed. Talk about that just a little bit. How did you adjust?
Well, about 25 years ago, we started closing on Saturday. We was never open on Sunday, but we closed on Saturday because we had smaller kids and we wanted to do stuff on the weekends with them. And then during COVID, we closed on Wednesday so that I could have 2 teams of employees so we didn't cross-contaminate. So we could stay open. So you work Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, and then you was off again. And that other crew come in Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday. So, and everybody really liked that.
That's amazing.
And we got COVID a few times and been there, but we never had to close for COVID. We car hopped for a year. I could not do that.
I love that.
That was just a few years ago. I was able to car hop for a year.
Yeah.
But we kept the doors open. And then now everybody that works for me really enjoys Wednesdays off. And honestly, I enjoy my Wednesday.
Sure.
So we're just making it work for you.
Yeah.
So
And if it weren't Wednesday, we would have some of your great food sitting here to display. We would probably have a big cheeseburger in honor of J.S. Martin. We would probably have a sack full of speedy cheeseburgers with slaw on them because that's my specialty.
yeah, just like, and that's what a lot of locals eat. I kid that they type into if you're a local or not. It does
right.
slaw on your burger.
That's right. That's right. Well, my thing to do, and this is how I justify this. I said, okay, I'm only going through here once, and I'll get to work, and I won't be able to leave again. I get 2 chicken tenders, and then I get 4 speed cheese slaw. That's it.
Yeah.
I eat the 2 chicken tenders first, and then later in the day, I can eat a cold speed burger.
Yeah.
I love them.
Yeah.
I love them.
And some people do. Some people, you can throw them in the microwave and they'll be on the next day. Maybe not without the slaw, but yeah, people eat them all the time. And I think we sell more speed burgers now than we used to, just because people's found them. I mean, they're affordable. You don't have to get a whole meal. You can get 2 speed burgers and a drink for less than $5.
That's it.
That's the deal.
Now, what is your favorite that you've eaten all your life? What's the one thing you always go back to?
My go-to is a big cheeseburger.
Yeah.
That's my go-to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't eat that much red meat anymore, so I eat it about once a week. That's my treat. That's my Friday meal.
Is there something special y'all do to that cheeseburger? Because JS would always say, no. I'll say, would you want me to stop? I'm going through town. You want me to get you a Burger King? No, I want a speed burger. I said, JS, they're closed today. What do you mean? I said, they're closed. Oh, no. There's something about the flavor. What do you do to that burger?
I think it's because they're cooked fresh, but it's also the sauce. We make the sauce, and we use a steamer. So you want to get a melted cheese on the beef, and that's a little cold piece of cheese on a hamburger.
No.
So yeah, I think that's the thing.
Yeah. Now, what about plates? With the cost of doing business, is it still affordable to eat a plate at the Speed Burger?
It is. I mean, you can do a plate and a drink for $14, and that plate should be plenty of food. I mean, most people take some of it home with them.
Right.
But yeah, you can still do a plate and a large drink for $14, so that's not bad.
Now, a loaded question. When all these corporations come in, has the Speed Burger been affected by this?
We are. I mean, and it's going to be a little bit different this year because there are going to be 3 or 4 open in one year. Usually, you have one opening. It affects us. The worst one in my lifetime is whenever, believe it or not, when Hardee's first come to town. Because if you remember, Hardee's was the first chain.
That's right.
And it was
But you know what's so funny? Hardee's didn't make it, and the Speed Burger did.
Yeah, we're still here.
That speaks volumes.
Yeah, we're still here.
And I think it's called consistency.
It is. And we micromanage a lot just because there's a lot of moving parts in a restaurant people don't see. And we try to keep everything consistent. But like we've had places where we buy our products from go out of business. Where we buy our hot dogs, they decided they were closing. They said, this will be your last delivery. We're closing. They got tired and they went home.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Is there a retirement in your future ever?
There is.
Okay, you will get to see that interview in its entirety next week. It will also be on YouTube. Trace, you can put it on YouTube today? Yeah, maybe some. Yeah, okay. So you will get to see that interview, and if you haven't been to the Speed Burger, go visit it. If you have not been to Mom and Pop restaurants, go visit them. Please choose to eat locally. Choose some of these little hole in the walls that you're like, I don't know about this. Well, most likely a local family owns it and has probably owned it a long time, and you need to check them out because the chains have all the money propping them up, and that's great. But these local businesses are very important to the communities that we serve, so get to know the local businesses. Everybody knows that ETC is a local business owned by the same family for over 100 years. So yeah, we like sharing local businesses. Now we're going to share something with you. We're going to share a little bit of Ellijay yesterday and the Veterans Day Parade. If you got out in the cold, and woo, I bet you're feeling like I am today. I have been just hachoo all day long. It's crazy. But sit back now and think about how many people have served, how many people we need to honor, and the next time you go out to eat, if you see a veteran sitting in a restaurant, pick up his check and tell him I appreciate what you did for our country. Here we go.
Is introduce you to a wonderful friend of mine. He's a Smith. Not too common, but he was there during the Vietnam War. He was a squad leader in Vietnam. He was the 1st Infantry Division. He has the Bronze Star Medal, 2 Army Commendation Medals, Infantry Badge, Vietnam Campaign Medal, and Control Medal, National Defense Service Medal. You would never know it to talk to him. But ladies and gentlemen, how about a wonderful applause as I introduce you our pastor that will do our prayer. Ladies and gentlemen, Pastor Reuben Smith, U.S. Army veteran, Vietnam.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's a joy to join with you today in this special occasion as we come together year after year to remember and honor our veterans, and we deeply appreciate all those that have served and continue to serve. We could never say thank you enough, and we're so appreciative to our wonderful Lord and Savior who has blessed our nation above all the nations of the earth, as you well know. So thank you, Ellijay always, and Brother Sam, and all those that have always put this together to continuously not to forget our veterans. Thank you so much, and thank you for the families that are here today. Let's pray together. Our Father, we do once again come to this place, joining so many veterans around our country and even around the world, families and citizens of this great nation that you've blessed. We could never thank you enough for your kindness and goodness and protection and help in all of our circumstances. As we well know, Jesus said wars and rumors of wars would be until the very end of time. And so there's always evil out there, and so there'll always be the call for the veterans and those that will come forth to stand in the gap and offer us protection and security and freedom. And so we join with all these today, and we give you thanks, give our veterans and their families thanks, and continue to bless us and to help us, Lord, we pray. In Jesus' precious name, amen.
Truer words were never spoken. That is absolutely super. Our Pledge of Allegiance, led by members of the local chapter, the Daughters of the American Revolution. There we go. Okay. Of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible and justice for all. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you Miss Tara Clance, who will sing the national anthem. Tara?
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, their bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Because as we pause to honor those who served, we also celebrate 250 years, our country's semi-quincentennial. 250 years ago, our Army was established on June 14th, our Navy was established on October 13th, and our Marine Corps was established on 10 November. 250 years ago, a group of farmers, tradesmen, and dreamers stood against tyranny and declared that freedom would be our destiny. From those first patriots to today's soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Space Force Guardians, and Coast Guardsmen, the thread of service and sacrifice has never been broken. Not for the generation that preserved the Union, not for the generation that liberated Europe and the Pacific, not for the generation that stood firm during the Cold War, including the Korean and Vietnam conflicts, and not for the generation that pursued freedom and justice in a world threatened by terror. Each of our veterans began their service with an oath to support and defend our Constitution against all enemies. Most were just teenagers when they raised their right hands to swear that oath. Some were drafted, while others were volunteers. Some would serve just 3 years, while others would serve 20 or more years. I was one of those teenagers. When I was sworn in as a midshipman at the U.S. Naval Academy in June 1970, I was only 17 years old. 4 years later, I would repeat that oath while being sworn in as an ensign in the U.S. Navy. In October of 1974, I reported to Pensacola, Florida, where I began my naval flight training and took the first step to realize my childhood dream, to become a military pilot. 18 months later, when I completed my flight training, my wife pinned the coveted wings of gold as a naval aviator on my uniform. And 2 years after receiving my wings, I earned the designation as a P-3C plane commander, where at the age of 26, I was given the responsibility for a $26 million aircraft and trusted by 11 other crew members to safely fly them all over the world, tracking Soviet nuclear submarines and surface combatants. By the age of 28, I had seen more of the world than most people have at the age of 65. I was part of the Cold War generation, a generation that witnessed the nuclear arms race with the Soviet Union. It was a time when our country realized more than ever that peace could only be maintained through military strength. During the Cold War, both our country and the Soviet Union raced to build and deploy nuclear ballistic missile submarines. Why? Because each country thought that the other could not detect where their nuclear submarines were at any given time. That was certainly true for our submarines, but that was not the case for the Soviet submarines. In their race to keep pace with the U.S. nuclear submarine output, the Soviets cut corners in the build-out of their submarines, which led to their acoustic vulnerability. Compared to U.S. submarines, they were quite noisy. Using state-of-the-art acoustic technology, our Navy developed the capability to use non-detectable acoustic sensors and tactics to not only track their submarines, but know exactly which submarine was being tracked, as each submarine had a unique acoustic footprint. The P-3 aircraft was the perfect platform to deploy passive acoustic sensors in order to perform that mission. The 4-engine turboprop aircraft could drop listening devices, referred to as sonobuoys, from high altitudes and monitor them without a Soviet submarine ever knowing that it was being tracked. A P-3 could carry enough fuel to track a submarine for hours and then hand off tracking of the submarine to another P-3, allowing a Soviet submarine to be tracked for many days in a row. Should hostilities break out, the P-3 could be configured to carry torpedoes, mines, missiles, and even a tactical nuclear weapon. My crew was trained to deploy each type of weapon should a conflict break out. Although I served in peacetime, the hazards of naval aviation were painfully ever present. Between 1976 and 1979, the Navy lost 4 P-3 aircraft during operational or training missions. I had Naval Academy classmate aviators on board 2 of those fatal crashes, who were fortunate enough to survive, and in fact played key roles in preventing the loss of lives during those crashes. In 2 of the crashes, the entire crew was lost. As a plane commander, I survived a lightning strike to my aircraft that severely damaged it, and I also had to make 3 3-engine landings, and we had to shut down an engine in each situation due to a propeller malfunction. My training allowed me to handle each of these situations with calm and confidence. My squadron had over 300 personnel. Only about half of those personnel were aircrew. The other half ensured that our squadron's 9 aircraft were properly maintained. Their job and their sacrifice were no less demanding than those of the aircrew members during each several months deployment. And there were 14 other P-3 squadrons spread across the east and west coast, deploying to sites across the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans that performed the same type missions. But as service members, we were not the only ones who experienced sacrifice. Our spouses were the ones who held down the home front while waiting for letters from us while we were away. My wife, at the age of 25, managed 2 children under the age of 3, a household, and all other finances on her own while I was deployed. Here in Gilmer County, Veterans Day is indeed personal. Many families trace generations of service. My father served in the Army during the Korean War. I had 2 uncles who served in World War II, a relative who served in World War I, another relative who served during the Civil War and actually became a prisoner of war, and a relative, James Edwards, who served in the 1st Virginia Regiment during the Revolutionary War. My family continues to follow that military tradition. My son served in the Army during the Kosovo conflict in the 1990s, and my nephew is currently undergoing flight training to become an Air Force pilot. Our veterans come home from their service with stories. Some shared as fond memories, but many were kept within their heart, especially the memories of those who served in combat. But each memory carried a piece of America's enduring story. Our remembrance of our veterans does not end today. Next month, on December 13th, the local Daughters of American Revolution chapter will, for the first time ever, hold a Wreaths Across America ceremony to place wreaths on the over 200 graves of veterans interred in the Ellijay City Cemetery. As they place a wreath in each grave, they will quietly repeat the veteran's name. For many of those deceased veterans, it is the only time each year that their names are spoken. In March of 2026, that same organization will also host National Vietnam Veterans Day ceremony at the Lions Club Pavilion to honor those veterans who served during the Vietnam War era. Veterans who were not always treated with respect when they returned home from their service. Over 1,000 Gilmer County's living veterans are Vietnam era veterans. On Memorial Day 2026, the Gilmer County Veterans Memorial Committee will hold its annual Memorial Day ceremony at the freshly renovated Veterans Park to honor the over 40 Gilmer veterans who gave their last full measure in service to their country, and the Gold Star families whose quiet strength reminds us of love and loss intertwined. Gilmer County will go on to honor our nation's 250th anniversary with 2 other patriotic events. On June 13th, the Gilmer County America 250 Committee will host a Flag Day celebration at the Gilmer High School football stadium to both honor and celebrate the history of our flag. The celebration will include the unfurling of a 50-foot by 100-foot American flag and a military flyover. Flag Day is unfortunately seldom observed in communities these days, but we will show that Gilmer County has not forgotten Flag Day. And on the 4th of July, many will parade through downtown Ellijay along streets lined with American flags. We'll watch awesome fireworks later in the evening. And as we do, we will be reminded of the freedoms we have enjoyed as one nation under God.
Whether you're in the mood for chicken strips, a delicious burger, our classic banana split, or an upside-down thick blizzard treat, we've got you covered. Hot and fresh food every day, every time, and delicious DQ soft serve make the perfect pair at your favorite place. Not fast food, fan food fast. Your Blue Ridge, Ellijay, and Jasper Dairy Queens are your meet, eat, and treat headquarters.
Thank you for choosing DQ. How may I serve you?
If you or your business are looking for local advertising opportunities, we have sponsorships available for new programming coming soon on ETC3. Contact us at 706-697-5591.
See us anytime you can.
Whether you're swimming in the sea or splashing in the pool, making a masterpiece, or just making memories, writing a great American novel, or writing your term paper that's due tomorrow. Whatever you do in life, Farmers is here to protect it. For all your insurance needs, call Donald Curtis in Blue Ridge.
Okay, these tease pictures are from all over North Georgia, and it cracks me up because the cold temperature gets here, and then the Alaska Northern Lights come to see us. Come on, who's kidding who? We've got these Northern Lights showing up everywhere, and people are standing out there in their yard waiting for them to come across the ridge, and I'm like, are you kidding me? The temperatures drop to cold, 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 and then the lights come to Georgia. This is crazy timing, y'all. I don't know how this happened. I reckon it's one of those miracles that we'll learn about later. But it is amazing to me, and thank you for everybody who's posting your pictures. Thank you for those who are standing outside bearing the brunt of the cold weather to catch these photos for us. They are simply amazing. And it just shows you that God has a sense of humor. He sent us the cold, and then he sent us the beautiful lights to go with it. So, okay. It's kind of crazy, but that's in Georgia. I just can't believe that we are seeing this, but we are. And it's happening all around certain spots. It's very, very weird to me. So I guess it's one of those phenomenons that we may never figure out. And that one was kind of my favorite because it's like it's sneaking up on you. The sky's normal, and then all of a sudden, here it comes, and you're like, are you kidding me? Here you come again. So, yep, we got the cold weather, and then we got this. And that is just really, really cool. Really cool. And unless you'd been in an airplane over Alaska like I was, seeing the northern lights, I don't think you'd understand. You're not supposed to be able to see them here. And congratulations to Dennis Nelson, the going to be mayor January 1st. So it's exciting. It's an exciting time. He's been on the council for 4 years, did a great job, was elected. And thank you to everybody who came out to vote. Thank you for doing your civic duty. So there you go. And to Christine Rogers, again, thank you, thank you, thank you. She's been on the council 4 years. She does a really good job. She does her homework. She really does her homework. She gets an A+ on her homework. So congratulations to both of them. And I want to tell y'all, get hungry today. If you're anywhere within a 30-mile radius of Jasper, drive to Jasper, go to the Old Mule House, downtown Jasper. Today is a fundraiser for Hans Rufert. Part of the proceeds of everything they sell today at the Old Mule House. And if you don't know where it is, it's in a beautiful, beautiful old brick building right on the corner in downtown Jasper. It actually was housing for many, many years Lawson Chevrolet. See this tag? I'll always be a Lawson Chevrolet girl. I don't care who owns the dealership. I'm a Lawson girl, and I'm still driving black Suburbans, so I guess I always will. Kevin Roper will probably take me out of here in a Lawson Chevrolet. But when we think about old businesses, old families, old companies, we need to get together and support all of them. So support your local businesses. And, you know, we've got a dealership here in Ellijay that's been here forever. There are so many small town businesses that made it through some crazy times, and we need to continue to support them. So don't forget today, we are supporting our friend Hans Rufert, Old Mule House, all day long. Part of the proceeds go to help Hans in his current, miracle. Just one more miracle after one more miracle after one more miracle. Now we're going to take you now to a little bit more of the Papa Jack interview. When I sat and watched it, it just made me realize how special this gentleman was, and how many of you never got to know him because he's been gone a few years, and he and Precious Joyce were married for over 60 years, and what a difference they made in our community. I hope that there's somebody like Papa Jack who will step up and make a difference in the community. So let's go as we visit once again with David and Wally and Daddy, the Brysons.
Have any blacks in it. When I first went there, it was a National Guard outfit that was being phased out as far as training, active duty, and we set up to give advanced combat engineer training. Then they sent in one black company commander there, sharp man, knew what he was about, and then several soldiers. We had 15 came into my platoon at one time.
It was a different
But we didn't have any problems.
No.
We didn't have any problems. They were good soldiers. They were sharp, and they excelled in a lot of areas that white soldiers were lax in, and vice versa. You know.
Papa Jack, were you drafted or did you?
No, I joined.
Okay.
I joined.
Was it during the time there was an active draft?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh yes. One of my friends that died last week or 2 weeks ago in Cartersville, Georgia, was drafted after I came home, and was the war was ended in 1953, and I went in 1950, 6 months after the war had started, and went directly overseas from training, and then came back and trained troops the rest of my enlistment, and the war was over during the Eisenhower administration, 1953.
Let me ask you something. In the pictures I saw this weekend, were there trees where you were serving? Because it reminded me a little bit of Copper Hill. Wasn't a lot of greenery anywhere.
No,
Is that pretty much what the atmosphere was?
Most of the timbers were either blown up. Well, now in the south it was rice paddies, And then when you got further north toward the 38th parallel, and they cut all of those timbers and made bunkers out of them, trench lines and what have you. Wasn't a lot, but I went through soil twice or 3 times, and it wasn't, you couldn't even tell what it was. You know, it's blown all to heck. And it's a metropolis now. It's an amazing place, they say. But,
have you ever wanted to go back?
No.
No.
No, I really haven't. I was on the Eastern Central Front to start with, and then we did battalion reserve duty, and I was transferred out of an infantry thing into a pioneer and ammunition platoon support team, handling all the ammunition and supplies for the frontline crew. And that don't mean we weren't on the front lines and in harm's way. We were quite often, but that was most of my stay there was in that, and that's how I picked up an MOS number that was combat engineer. And when I came home and was stationed in a combat engineer unit at Camp Rooker, I requested a transfer to the infantry because I didn't know that, but I'd handle a lot of explosives, dynamite and C3 stuff that they used, you know, primarily to destroy booby traps and unexploded incoming artillery rounds. We just did a lot of things. And they said, no, said, we're going to send you on temporary duty to Fort Belvoir, Virginia for 3 months, and you're going to combat engineer school, said, because we need your expertise that you'll have when you come back to help write lesson plans and train troops. And that's what I did. So at the time I was there, Joyce went to Cleveland, Ohio, where my folks lived at that time, and stayed most of that 3 months. And I've been to Washington and never saw it, really. Actually going through it and what have you, but a friend of mine that was in school there with me lived in Akron, and we would on the weekends hit the Pennsylvania Turnpike. We would hitchhike until we got to that turnpike, and then we'd hitchhike to Akron. And his dad ran a cabaret, you know, a nightclub type thing, and I remember a beautiful, brand new, nice automobile that he'd take me on to Cleveland in, and he'd come back, you know.
Wow.
That's one of the good things I remember. But I enjoyed my time in the military very much.
Let's talk about the difference in the weapons you dealt with and the weapons of today.
I have no idea what they have today.
Can you even imagine the difference? Yeah.
No.
What about helicopters? Did you have helicopters then?
Well, the only helicopters that I saw were the ones that came in to fly the wounded back.
Okay.
And they had that little coffin rack on it, you know, our stretcher rack, litter they called it, and that's the only helicopters I saw. They used them a time or two. I've read since then, you know, advertisements for 1 or 2 of the first helicopter fences, you know, but I never did see them. We walked everywhere we went.
Well, right now we're going to show some photos that David brought. This is a PowerPoint with photos of what?
Well, it's kind of funny. Dad never had ridden on I don't think he minds me telling a subway. And
I've never ridden on a subway.
Oh, listen.
Still today, never ridden on a subway. Have no desire to ride
He's found
on a
out he don't want to ride one looking backwards because he makes him sick. He's got to look where he's going. But,
okay.
But anyway, there are the memorials. There are just, you know, things that we did there. There's a shot in there that I actually took earlier in the summer. We were there when they had the shooting at the Jewish Memorial, the Holocaust Museum. We were there the day before.
Wow.
And we were there the day after, and they're flying the flags at half-mast and that stuff, which, you know, you mentioned earlier, there's still a lot of hatred in this country toward other nationalities and other races. And the man who did that shooting died last week, and he was 80-something years old. Just walked up and shot and killed a black man. He didn't have a clue who it was.
Well, you know, this weekend, the internet has made our life better. It's made our life not better at some points. this weekend I had an idea that I wanted to type in. My grandfather was Jewish, German Jewish, and I typed in his name, and I got copies of 1952 grandparents' divorce decree and all the things that were used in it, because it is now on law books and has been used quite often. Then I typed in my father's name, and Papa Jack heard a little bit about my dad in this seminar we did, and it had him in the newspaper in St. Petersburg, Florida. This is from the 40s, the late 40s. So the internet today has made it possible for great memories to be kept. You know, it blew my mind. I was sitting there reading all this transcript, and I thought, wow. The internet has also made it possible for soldiers to get in touch and to keep in touch. Now, that's something your mom loves to do, the internet.
Yes.
Has she contacted any of Dad's old Korean buddies?
No, but now my daughter's mother-in-law spent quite a bit of hours on the internet and wound up on Facebook and located one of her husband's. He was in Vietnam. David Bigham was in Vietnam, and so Darlene spent, I don't know how long, and it took a long time, but located the daughter on Facebook of someone he actually was with in Vietnam.
Wow.
And arranged a reunion just over Christmas, and totally surprised both of them involved. So now Mom has not done that, but people in the family or extended family have done this. You know, one of these pictures shows what I think is interesting, shows the statues that you're talking about at the Korean War Monument. And using the internet and the sources we have, we found that there are 19 statues there. And the reason there's 19 statues is when the sun hits it, it shows a reflection of those 19 statues on the Korean wall behind it, which represents the 38th parallel, which divides North Korea and South Korea. So the thought that goes behind these memorials must be unbelievable.
Those first several shots were of the World War II Memorial, which is a gorgeous place. Granite.
And it's divided into the Pacific and the Atlantic, you know, conflicts, and it shows
Did you know some of those names, Papa
Donald
Jack?
W. Queen from Epworth, Georgia, died in Vietnam.
Wow.
About in the middle of the war. He lived right down the road from us, and our grandfather was part of his funeral one night.
Wow.
That tribute to the nurses in Vietnam was probably the most moving picture that I think. You see one nurse praying, and one nurse is looking for the helicopter to come in and get them, and the other nurse has her fist in a wound.
Wow. Wow.
All that's right there in the line, too.
Right.
The Washington Monument and the Mall and the Lincoln Memorial and the World War II Memorial, along with the U.S. Capitol.
Well, I've always heard that D.C.'s traffic is horrendous. How did you cope with that? Did you know your way around enough that you made it easier for everybody?
Well, we didn't drive anywhere.
Okay.
We took the monorail. We went there to only see what we went to see, and because we wanted Dad to see it. And when I went earlier with my grandson, we did drive 3 years ago over to Baltimore, and now for $1.75 you can ride round trip a light rail from Washington D.C. to Baltimore, and you can get around pretty much anywhere you want to go. You got to figure that system out, or you'll be going backwards and frontwards and spend a lot of time on it.
Wow.
And there's no need to drive.
Yeah, okay.
You can get around.
They got trolley there, too, you can take. We did that a time or two.
Beautiful.
That gentleman in the wheelchair was part of the Freedom Flight. There were veterans all over that gentleman there. There were veterans all over Washington that were a part of the Freedom Flight, where they bring folks to see the monuments, and it was very good.
There's the Korean War Memorial.
Now, did you go to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier?
Yes, we did.
Okay, tell me a little bit about it.
Wow, if you have not been to Washington, D.C., if you have a soldier in your family who has always wanted to go, the time is now, because we are not guaranteed tomorrow. Load them up, go to D.C., spend a little time, a little energy, a little effort, and let them relive what they fought for. That is so important, and I'm so glad that the boys took Papa Jack to D.C., and he got to see everything, because he had a very, very hard time dealing with what he saw in Korea, and it took him a long, long time to talk about it. And when Joyce called and said he's ready, I was so thankful. So thank you for being with us today. Thank you for honoring our veterans, and today, remember, if you're in a restaurant, pick up a veteran's check and say thank you very, very much. Don't forget the Mule House today. Proceeds go to help our friend Hans Rufert. I'll see you again soon on ETC.